We're talking about accountability and deficit days. In order to keep losing weight, we have to achieve some kind of calorie deficit. And to do that, I want to bring our definition and understanding of accountability to a more pure and fundamental definition than just, oh, being consistent or, oh, keep me accountable, coach. What true accountability is, you can picture it like this. You want to buy something, you need more buying power to afford it. Your budget doesn't allow for it. So you borrow money from a friend. So that borrowed money plus the money you put down, you can buy the thing. And then you have to pay your friend back in installments, whatever you agree on. Well, let's imagine that you're out shopping around and you have a decision to make. You got some money from work that week and you're over at Target and you want to buy something. Can you buy it? Well, if that money has to go back to your friend who you owe because you borrowed from them, you owe them that money, you may or may not be able to buy that thing from Target. Imagine what your friend would think if they're waiting to get paid back by you, but you're giving that money to Target. Even though you earned that money, you still owe it. It's still pre-pledged to your friend. It just has to pass through your hands and you have to satisfy your debt before you can go on a surplus spree again. So, I think our definition of accountability is a little watered down. We have bankruptcy, we have bailouts, we have credits, grants, all this stuff. Just the fundamental aspect of accountability is settling accounts. Think about that in terms of losing weight and a calorie deficit. So, if my maintenance number, which means if I eat, let's say 2,000 calories a day, I'm not gaining, I'm not losing. It's the exact amount my body needs to maintain. Everything's net zero. But let's say I want more buying power. I want to have extra fun on Monday. So I spend 3,000 calories, I eat 3,000 calories. Well, how if I need to settle my account so that at the end of the week I maintain, what do I need to do on Tuesday? Well, if I have a 4,000 calorie budget for those 2 days to maintain, I only have 1,000 left in my budget. So I've basically created a deficit of 1,000 calories on Tuesday to make up for the surplus on Monday. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, but what about age? What about heredity? What about genetics? What about this and that? I'll tell you that most people feel like a backup plan is like a weight loss surgery, a stomach surgery, or using some kind of pharmaceutical. All those interventions just use the same mechanism of your body burning stored calories by creating a calorie deficit. They're just getting you to crave food less, have less hunger hormones. Essentially, you're just still creating a calorie deficit. It's just harder to overeat when you have reduced the size of your stomach or taken a medication. So what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, creating a calorie deficit is what we need to do to lose weight or maintain weight. So if I have weight to lose, I have to recognize that I spent more in my past and I borrowed from today. I borrowed from tomorrow. I borrowed from my future. I have to settle the books. There is no bailout. There is no bankruptcy court. I have to shoulder the burden and settle the debt. This is why, in most cases, I'm against medical interventions, because you lose the character growth of shouldering burdens and becoming a person of character, integrity, and responsibility. So if we want to create a calorie deficit, yes, we can move around more, we can work out, we can take the stairs instead of the elevator. However, when it comes to nutrition, that's a longer lever. We have more leverage to create a calorie deficit than we ever will with working out. Think about it. You got to go to the gym. That's time away from your family, time away from your passions or your work. You got to shower again. As you age, it's harder to burn calories. I'm not against working out. I'm just saying if we can create a deficit by omitting consumed calories, we have way more bang for our buck. So here's a few major ways to create calorie deficit. You can have freedom of what you eat, but you have to control how much you eat or when you eat. For example, you could still eat pizza, you could still eat pasta and cheese and all this stuff, but just a smaller amount of it so that you don't go into a calorie surplus. You could do something like hunger-based eating where you wait until you're hungry and then you eat until you're level 5, which is not stuffed but full. Level 10 would be stuffed. For most people, that's going to control their portion. And if you follow the portion guidelines, then you're going to get enough of each nutrient. People who skip dinner or have some kind of eating window like intermittent fasting, they have a lot of freedom of what they eat because they're only taking in 2/3 of the calories. But the possibility does exist for those other meals to be higher in calorie, so you still have to be mindful of what you're eating. I generally like these methods because you still get practice saying no to different things when you have like an eating window or when you're resigning yourself to have a smaller portion. On the other hand, you can restrict what you eat. So you can eat lower calorie foods. You can go high protein that's very satiating. You can avoid sugars, avoid fats, things like this. You have to be restrictive in what you eat. And if you abuse your freedom, like myself, then this is good to do. Say like, okay, for 3 days every week, I'm having no sugar or something like that. But in this case, you likely need to be tracking your calories or making sure that that change is actually affecting a calorie deficit. Almost in its own category is something like keto or carnivore, because you're restricting what you're eating, but you can go for longer periods without eating, because your body gets in this fat burning mode more so than any other type of diet, and you have way less cravings for food in general, especially carbs or snacks. So keto and carnivore is super effective. However, when you're off of it, you still have to struggle with being a disciplined person. It's hard to stay on long term because your friends, your family may not be on it, and so it can affect like your social life, and social life revolves around food. But for a lot of people, at some point in their journey, it is probably a very powerful tool to help. For most people, they need a combination of using the portion control guide, counting calories for temporary spurts of time, and controlling an eating window. Big picture though, we have to just keep embodying the disciplines that I'm preaching, keep practicing them, keep drilling them, because they're going to shape our actions, behaviors, and mindsets around eating. A lot of people have done well with calorie tracking, where you just say, hey, every day I have to be under 1,500 calories, 1,200 calories, whatever the number is. But this does require measuring your food, scanning the barcodes, putting in portion amounts, weighing your food, so that you know that you're staying within your macro and calorie limits. It is viewed by many as being tedious. It can be hard to do long term. So what I've developed is what I call deficit days, which is an alternating pattern of deficit and maintenance days, which has seemed to help a lot of people go into a calorie deficit long term. So on deficit days and maintenance days, you are still following the portion guide, but on deficit days, it's extremely restrictive. You're just stripping things down to the essentials. You're not splurging, because after all, we can't afford to go into a surplus. Typically what a deficit day looks like, it's as low calorie eating as possible. You're eating high proteins that keep you satiated. You're probably not putting your creamer in your coffee. You're omitting cooking oils. You're probably not having a lot of dairy or cheese, nuts, sauces, which are all high in calories and they're not technically essential. You're probably not eating at restaurants, I can tell you that. You're not having treats or sweets in between meals. You're not snacking. You're definitely avoiding snacking up until dinner, and you're having a cutoff time. So these deficit days should feel restrictive because you are sticking to your budget. You're going for an A+ in calorie budgeting. And what a lot of people have found is that doing a deficit day and then a maintenance day, deficit day, maintenance day, and an alternating pattern works really well. Or something like 2 deficit days, 1 maintenance day, or 2 and 2, 2 and 2. Sometimes your deficit day falls on the weekend or an event, a party, even a holiday. This is good because you have to train yourself to still be at these events and not indulge, not have the champagne, not hit up the buffet, or do it in a very simplistic, minimal, conservative way. These are great things to practice. We need these skills long term. It's not about how much weight we can lose super quickly. We are developing skills to keep embodying long term. I like deficit days because you build discipline. You get a lot of reps of saying no to cravings, indulgences, food that you would want to eat, but it's off limits to you that day. And you build an appreciation for the simplicity of what gets you through the day. You build an appreciation for yourself for being disciplined. You're not satisfying every craving, so you're resensitizing yourself to things that are sweet or indulgent. So if you want to give it a try, talk to your coach, find out some kind of simple pattern, and just go for it.